So I know this isn't one of like the usual uploads that I do, but I felt this was one of those things that I kind of wanted to, one, get out there, and two, just kind of like seek feedback. Because maybe I'm just too much of like a boomer. Maybe I'm too neurospicy to understand how people work. But like I don't really understand the interactions, and I'm kind of like seeking that like constructive feedback. So like yesterday, right? We had Pirate Software reactions. Tried to be as positive as I could. At the end of the day, I mean, it's internet drama. It's going to happen. There's going to be conflict. There's going to be strife. Full disclosure, I said something that a lot of people take issue with. If you're not the age of 18 or above, you're a literal child. If you're not 18, you're literally 12. A lot of people didn't like that. A lot of people, claiming I'm demonizing an entire group of people. As it turns out, I don't know. It's one of those things I felt I've been pretty transparent about. Like, adults should not deal with minors in any situation outside of professional interactions. Obviously, cool. Yeah, there are exceptions. Like, cool. Yeah, you're in high school. Literally talked to a teacher buddy about this last night, and he's like, yeah, no, Kip, your view is kind of extreme on this. These are kind of reasonable exceptions. So sure, right? Like, yeah, cool, awesome. We've resolved the issue. As it turns out, I will only, and I specifically, subjectively, only interact with children in a professional manner. I show up to a tournament. I get paired against kid. Cool. Awesome. We flip cards. Win, lose game. Grats. Cool. Thanks. Bye. Right? There's nothing more. I'm not some kid's buddy. I'm not some kid's friend. I'm not some kid's pal. In fact, I go out of my way to age gate things like my Twitch stream because I don't want to deal with that, right? I'm not geared at a minor audience, and I think that's incredibly fair. So, yeah. Leading into that, I guess leaving on that note, yeah, cool. Leaving that to parents and lawyers. At the end of the day, I don't want to deal with kids. I don't want to deal with minors. I think that's a pretty reasonable thing across the board. So, getting into what I don't understand, because that actually goes straight into what I don't physically understand about, like, just people in general, right? And I said, maybe I'm just too much of a boomer. Maybe I got a little too much of that spiciness in me. But it's kind of like, I'm like Gwyn, Lord of Sunlight. Okay, I telegraph things pretty hard. Like, I actually talk about things. Like, Habitual Line Crosser, love his videos, but I have to write paragraph to be sure to say, like, I like his content. I think that he has a professionalism that many YouTubers could take notes from. And like it's just the subject material is making me so angry. And I have to clarify that it's like, look, I don't want to feel like this is me, using quote unquote veterans to get a platform. And then, as soon as I make it, then I just don't do it anymore. Cause that's what it feels like to me. It's like, well, I can't continue it at this time. I'm just way too angry. These are things that I have to keep track of, right? So I telegraph things pretty easily. I talk about things, right? And so when I say things like I kind of hate everybody, yeah, specific individual people can be cool. People as a collective, as a general collective, kind of suck, right? And I've said this like for the past year in reactions, have I not? Like, for the past year, I've said things like, adults should never deal with minors in any situation that isn't a professional interaction. Sure, once again, sure, asterisk. Here's your list of caveats. Here's your list of reasonable caveats. If something happens that shouldn't happen, is inappropriate, you're done. Like, you're toast. Like, you're just absolutely cooked at that point. And that's pretty reasonable across the board. So, and I say things like, I'm not a good person. I'm not a specialist. I'm not an expert. Like, I will telegraph these things repeatedly. And I can only hit these talking points so many times because if I talk about it every video, right? Like, if I said the same exact line every video, it's going to get annoying. It's going to get boring. It's just, you're going to skip it. That's just how that works, right? But there's this assumption that I guess people assume I'm this, like, good person. And I don't quite understand where that comes from. I feel like I just talk about things. Sure, I talk about things in a confident capacity, right? But I'm like, realistically, objectively, not this super legit person that people, like, assume I am. Like, I spend most of my days just kind of, like, laying around, right? Like, I don't really do anything. And when I show up, clearly, from Habitual Line Crosser reactions, which I feel was disrespectful to his reactions, I just kind of show up, and I'm just kind of angry. Like, I'm not this super legit person. I'm not, like, any of this. And when you telegraph that you're X, and you communicate that you're X, and then people assume that you're just Y, and they're just like, well, you're Y, I don't understand how that makes sense. Like, I guess, like, yeah, you're entitled to have your opinion, whatever it may be, right? Like, yeah, I'm entitled to have my opinion that, nah, adults should never interact outside of, like, no, if you're 18, associate with adults. If you're under 17, you're 12. That is a subjective opinion, which is objectively flawed. But it's one of those things that, yeah, if I'm dealing with minors, I'm going to be professional and will hold everybody in the vicinity to a professional standard, okay? If I'm going to go to an event, whether it's going to be video game, whether it's going to be trading cards, etc., and I see anyone who is over the age of 18 being inappropriate with a minor, that's going to get called on real quick, okay? That's a zero tolerance. So, yeah, like, you're entitled to have your opinion. I'm entitled to have my opinion. Be able to justify your opinion, right? But I think it's interesting because even when you telegraph and you give people, like, adequate, like, yeah, these are reasonings, okay? Yeah, not a good person, right? List of reason, right? Pretty aggressive. Definitely have talked ill about creators, I feel, have I not? I definitely had issue with the Tom Dark reaction where he made a talking point of quote-unquote Thor being his name, and I'm just like, where does this even come from? Like, how is this relevant to the piece? Like, I don't know. And things like reactions that I'll do. Like, this needs to stop by Numi. Numi brought up some amazing points in the video, right? I feel that there's an obligation to talk about certain things. And so does that maybe shift public perception? Like, I actually genuinely don't know. And I don't know if it's just my brain is incapable of understanding how people function and work. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like the do what you say, say what you mean kind of thing, right? Where if you say, yeah, no, I'm kind of super questionable as a person, or like, yeah, I'm not a good person because I clearly get angry, right? Like, there's plenty of VTubers that pop up every single day, and clearly they are the difference. They're the difference who are far more positive than I am. They know more than I do. They have specializations that I don't, right? Like, yeah, no, totally makes sense. Like, I'm not the expert. I'm not the specialist. Like, I'm not XYZ ABC. But then there's this, like, I don't know. I don't know how to word it. So I guess I'm kind of just, like, to round that out, I don't really know how to feel. I really don't know how to think. I mean, it's a couple people have given some excellent feedback. It gets into the weird psychoanalysis territory where it's like there's a lot of self-hate, loathing, and depression here. Respectfully, I'm not really talking too much about my personal life. Like, sure, I guess that's a way to approach this. But ultimately, at the end of the day, as somebody who doesn't actually understand how people work, and I'm not using that as an excuse, like what is the interaction here? Like, how does that make sense? How can somebody telegraph they are X or Y, but then the assumption is that it's Z, and then everyone on board gets all aboard that the assumption is Z, and the person is in fact Z? Like, does the concern and the question kind of make sense? I've tried to explain a lot to the best of my ability. I'm actually going to go into some reactions after this. But yeah, I just don't really know. Give me your 2 cents on it. Give me your constructive feedback, stuff like that. Please be nice. As it turns out, don't harass other people in the comment section, okay? Like, it's one thing to call Kip a stinky doo-doo face, but the moment I see people actively harassing others, yeah, that's not okay. A hard line is drawn there. So thank you all for watching. Really do appreciate it, and see you in the next one.